our land. Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together. This also goes for every Trinbagonian who want to live in a foreign land. Now is the time to come home and do something instead of staying out there and freezing. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come, let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together.
Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique together. This is our home. We must, every single moment, every single day, every week, every month, every year, look back and say, what have I done to make this place we call home better? And if you can answer that, then you have done your job to make this place better. And when I say answer that, answer it by actually coming to that place where you can actually say, yes, I have done 1, 2, 3, 4. And I made a difference positively in my homeland. So it's so important to sometimes assess, evaluate your efforts. What have you done to better your homeland? I want to encourage you to work to build and not to break. I want to encourage you to make this place better, not just for you, but for your children and children. Let them thank you. Let them, put something somewhere saying, yes, my father, my mother, my sister, my aunt, my cousin, they did well. They laid a solid foundation for me. And now it's my duty to lay a solid foundation for my children and children. I want to welcome you to the Dynamic Hour. I want to encourage those on Facebook and on YouTube, please share the live. Sharing is caring. When you share the live, you give your friends, your colleagues, wherever they might be located or staying in the diaspora, here at home, you give them that opportunity to be a part of the dialogue, to learn, to know more. So please share the live. Sharing is caring. I want to start off by saying to those who from time to time will say, boy, this guy pressure, go throw him down, or this guy pressure, go cause X, Y, or Z. When I express myself through this platform or on this platform, let me say to you, my family do not have a history of suffering with pressure. In fact, this morning, as normal, I will test my pressure. I will jog in the morning. I will do what I normally do every morning to keep intact and keep fit. And as usual, same, same kind of reading, right? Again, saying to you, don't worry too much about Kem Jones when it comes to that. I don't have that in my family. All right? So I'm saying again, this is how I do what I do to communicate, to get that message to you so you can understand in very simple, simple ways. All right? So there is no need for you to be worrying or concerned. If you have pressure in your family, I am sorry that you are going through such a thing. And please manage it. All right? Manage it. So, as you can see, it's what it is. All right? 125, sometimes 123 over 83. In this case, 125 over 86. So, I don't have pressure issues for those who are concerned. I don't have diabetes in my family. I don't have these kind of stuff in my family. All right. Also, I do not have people in my family who has mental illness. So when I express myself, just as you have Donald Trump, for example, out there in the United States, saying that Kamala Harris is crazy, she mad, she this, she that. That is what normally happens when you're hitting the enemy hard and they feel it. So the easiest thing they would say is that this person crazy, this person mad, this person are mental. No, I do not have that in my family. Totally. All right? Go all the way down to my grandmother and my grandfather on both sides. All right? So it's not a reason to be concerned. Further, this thing is hitting them where it hurts because last night I spoke about public officers and some of those senior ones not doing their work and seemingly sabotaging the government. And I highlighted what the NNP used to do. I explained that the NNP had those workers acting. They were never permanent. They were never made permanent. And they were very loyal. Even those who were not for the NNP, they had to fall in line. They were very loyal and they were always promised that they're going to make them permanent in that position. But they kept acting and acting and acting for years, with the hope that they would be made permanent. But they were very loyal. They did what they're supposed to do and even extra. So I spoke about that. That was the NNP strategy. The NDC came into power, and the NDC is a different government. They care about workers. So what they did, they started the regularization process by making, firstly, those who were acting permanent in their positions. And the majority of people who were acting were senior folks. Senior. But many of them, they're permanent now. They're untouchable now. They can do whatever they want, whatever they feel, and at least that is what they believe. Right? Because when you're permanent, it's a hard thing to touch you, even if you're slacking off or slacking up. So instead of them working harder to make sure that this government succeeds, you have those who are sabotaging the government. So I spoke about that. Then you had the union donkey, Brian Grimes. Man, he grabbed the thing up. He went on his page on Facebook, posting all kind of stuff. We are not friends on Facebook. But he looks at my videos. He listens to my programs. By whatever means, he gets to listen to it. All right? So the guy went, he posted, and I mean, people out there would send the stuff to me. All right? I'm well connected. And I laugh because this guy was treated like dirt by the NNP administration. This same Brian Grimes, the union donkey, was treated in a very bad way by the NNP administration. Remember, this guy was on the port, you know. He was in customs. He used to play a big hefe in customs. And what the NNP administration did, they dump him somewhere in the stadium, somewhere inside there, to do what God alone knows. So he got his fair share of victimization from the NNP. But today, this same Brian Grimes, the union donkey, is out there playing thing. What's wrong with that, boy? What's wrong with you? But hear this. The record is there to show that this government has done far more for workers than the NNP administration. And workers should be thankful and grateful that the NDC came in power and brought the benefits to them that they have actually brought. Put on the table, gave them. The evidence is there to prove that. Remember, the NNP administration docked the salaries of workers. They went into their salaries just around Christmas time. The NNP docked the salaries, take their money from them, lest you forget that, because they went out and they protested for their pension and the gratuity. And I know the union donkey, Brian Grimes, is actually listening. I'm saying, folks, the NNP administration went into the salaries of public officers just around Christmas time and took monies from the salaries. When the NDC came into power, they gave them back the money.
In July for some teachers as government makes good on its promise to repay salaries that were docked in 2018. During the new government's first post-cabinet press briefing on Tuesday, Minister for Education, Senator the Honorable David Andrew, told members of the media that $1,264,000 will be paid to teachers at the end of July. The previous administration had docked the salaries of teachers who were involved in protest action and remained away from school for nearly 2 weeks. Minister Andrew said the repayment can help to enhance the relationship between the ministry and the teachers, as well as the level of production in the classroom.
In keeping with the spirit of what the Prime Minister indicated, we believe it's not going to be productive to have an adversarial climate with our employees, with our workers. And we know that the docked salaries created a very adversarial atmosphere within our ministry and the education sector for a pretty long time, and no doubt that had cost us quite a bit. So we're happy to announce that this month end, the docked salaries to the tune of $1,264,075.78 will be paid to persons who were unduly docked their salaries.
Minister Andrew says his ministry has been working closely with the Ministry of Finance to meet the financial obligation. He explained that the refund will be administered one day after the processing of regular salary payments. Both payments will be disbursed by July 26th.
Normally, salaries are processed on the 21st of July each month. And so this month, July 22nd, would be an additional processing of the docked salaries. We have been reliably informed from our dedicated staff at Finance that this is happening. And so both payrolls would be sent to the respective financial institutions for disbursement by the 26th. So it's our anticipation by the 28th or so of this month, those funds, the docked salaries, will be available to persons in their various accounts. We are very happy to do that, and we look forward to continuing to collaborate amicably with all of our teachers and stakeholders in education to ensure all of the goodwill and the relational spirit that existed in that sector can be regained, and we can benefit immensely from that.
Right. So the dock salaries were paid by the NDC pretty much early in the tenure of the government. They could have waited. They didn't have to pay it, but they did, because that was the right thing to do. But don't forget, Keith Mitchell was later asked about the same dock salary and what are his thoughts on it. Hear what he had to say.
You don't work, then I don't know how I can agree to pay you. But that's the philosophy of the Prime Minister. It's different from me. So he will have to deal with that, the consequences of that. So I'm not going to impute any other motives on his part. As I said, the honeymoon is on. Give them the chance to settle down. But my position on that is well known, and I will not change it because I'm in opposition.
That was Opposition Leader Dr. Keith Mitchell, who remains unfazed by government's intent to repay teachers' docked salary, as he stands rigid with his then government's decision made. Dr. Keith Mitchell was Prime Minister at the time when government docked the salaries of teachers who were involved in a protest action prompted by the GUT over a 2% gratuity payment offer. A letter from government was issued on the 13th of November 2018 to all permanent secretaries and head of department, informing them of the deduction. Union leaders had threatened dire consequences if the government had proceeded with its threat to dock workers' pay. The deduction comes a day after both public sector unions and the government negotiating team renewed talks on the issues of gratuity, which by all intentions was reported to be cordial. A joint release calling off the strike and signaling the resumption of negotiations made no mention of cutting workers' November salary. President of the Public Workers Union, Brian Grimes, via a phone interview with GBN, says that he is not surprised with the response from former Prime Minister Keith Mitchell, but is happy that the newly elected PM Dickon Mitchell had a different point of view on the matter.
Dr. Mitchell's statement did not surprise me in any way. This is a position that he has stated publicly before. So the opposition leader, his position, he has stated his position, he has borne the fruit of his position, and we as unions just look forward to having a more fruitful relationship on behalf of our constituents and the workers that we represent. So everyone has a right to their position, but as far as the Grenada Public Workers Union is concerned, we are in total congruence with the move by Honorable Deacon Mitchell.
Grimes says that the union is happy with the move made by Grenada's new Prime Minister and looks forward to developing a more fruitful and respected working relationship with the new government.
But I would just like to take the opportunity to congratulate our new Prime Minister, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, on such a move, because common sense dictates that the premise for the docking of the salaries.
So we're going to talk about the union donkey a little later, all right? So I'm not interested in hearing the union donkey at this point in time. But you heard Keith Mitchell and his position. So if NNP had won the election, there is no way these workers would have gotten back that money. No way. That $1.2 million, no way they would have gotten back that money. The teachers and the few public officers, right? So that is one. Then, lest you forget the issue of pension. The NDC has done way more for public officers than the NNP. The issue of pension was one that saw public officers protesting on the streets, over and over and over again. This was no simple feat. You remember they were protesting?
Our constitution states that we're entitled to 25%. And after myself working for 33 years, I think 2% from the government is an insult by the time I get to the age of 60. By that time, I would have contributed 43 of my years to the public service. And I think it's very, very unfortunate that the government would be offering 2% to me and to the other public officers after they get to age 60.
I believe that we as teachers, we work very hard. Sometimes we go the extra mile to ensure that the children are being prepared for whatever assessment they have, whether it's internal or external examinations. And sometimes when I go to work and I see those commitments, it really touches my heart. And over my years of education, there has been a lot of teachers that has been positively impacting my life. And I believe that me coming out here today would be a sign of gratitude to them for all they have done for me over the years.
Yes, well, the public was satisfied that, I mean, everybody at the children going to school. I mean, the teachers have a hard task just like any working person. So they should get what they have to get. So
we stand together and we say that we must be respected. Our country seems to be a leadership of disrespect. It started with the disrespect of nurses and doctors, and it continues with the disrespect of all public officers.
Well, I'm disappointed I'm not in the classroom, but then again, we have to stand up as teachers because this has an impact not just for now, for the future. Those children coming up in the school system, they would be public servants as well. When they retire, what are they going to accept that 2% with cost of living rising? It's not about color, it's not about politics, it's about the issue. And the issue is for people to remain in the system and contribute to Grenada, we need to give a decent pension, a decent gratuity. And I think 25% says it all.
To take such a...
So again, folks, very important. Very, very important. They were protesting. They were fighting for their pension and their gratuity because under NNP, there was no pension and no gratuity. So all this talk now, NNP come in and say, well, they started paying pension and gratuity and nonsense. These people were protesting in the streets for their pension and their gratuity. They never got it under the NNP. No, they never did. But here it is. You know what's amazing? NDC came into power, and within a matter of months, NDC paid the pension and the gratuity. Within a matter of months, they paid that. All right?
I see that figure to say, you're happy for life. And I want to thank the Prime Minister because he didn't have to do it. I work with him. But I want to thank you that today I am here and I feel happy in my spirit. Very happy. Thank you, thank all of you.
That was an emotional thank you by senior pensioner Bernadette Jeremiah, a former health officer thanking the government of Grenada. Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell handed her retroactive pension payment at a press conference on Wednesday afternoon. Ms. Jeremiah is among the over 500 Grenadians that are eligible to receive their pension payment in the month of November. The Prime Minister told Grenadians in July that the data coming out from the Ministry of Finance is that the retroactive payment is going to be in the region of $60 million. However, this has moved up to $75 million.
Now, this is no small feat. The transfer of $44 million from the state to the citizens, and eventually the projections is that as much as $75 million will be transferred from the state to the citizens, is perhaps the single largest transfer of wealth from the government to the citizens in the history of Grenada's post-independence. And so we have to appreciate that it is not just a symbolic gesture, but we are talking here fundamentally about the well-being of our citizens. If people work for 30, 40 years to build the state of Grenada, and we let them retire into poverty, it is the state of Grenada that we are doing a service.
So far, the Ministry of Finance has disbursed a total of $44.1 million to over 300 pensioners, with the remaining persons expected to receive their pension by November 30th. Tonya Adams, head of the Pension Secretariat, gave an update on the payment.
We have a number of persons from various ministries, but particularly those in the Ministry of Health, similar to Ms. Jeremiah over here. They would be receiving quite a bit because we had about 200 persons from just the Ministry of Health. The Royal Grenada Police Force and the Ministry of Education are also very high on that spectrum. We have the Ministry of Education with about 94 persons in this payout, and we anticipate that a few more, because we had about 150 persons from the Ministry of Education, will be paid on or before the 30th. And of course, we had the Royal Grenada Police Force with our hardworking police officers, just about 50 persons in this payment, in this tranche of payments. So that's basically how much. We anticipate that by the end of this entire process that we should process about 525 persons, and that should amount to about 75 million.
Grenadians who have not received their pension payments are asked to contact the Secretariat as soon as possible as a means of addressing any outstanding issues to process their application.
Right. So the pension was paid. And here it is. Our beloved Prime Minister went even further to make a special case for some people who are not going to collect a certain amount because they started off temporary and they worked for 6-7 years. Some of them started off as a RC and they didn't qualify for that time, that period. So they worked for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years as a RC. So our beloved Prime Minister made a special appeal and case for these people to get their pension. That is why it increased the amount from 60-something million to 70.1 million or so.
Honorable Deacon Mitchell says Cabinet has approved the decision to merge the years of service of public officers to allow them to qualify for pension payments. He said the decision was made following the assessment of applications to the Secretariat. Honorable Mitchell explained it is customary that these individuals only qualified to lose their years of service due to insufficient amount of years required to obtain a pension. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Finance announced the payment of retroactive pension and gratuity ahead of the November 30th, 2022 deadline. The first tranche of payments was made to over 300 retirees in the amount of $44.1 million.
Cabinet took the decision to in fact allow a significant number of persons to have their years of service joined. And I'll give examples, rural constables, for example, who subsequently became police officers. The practice has been that you lose your years of service, and therefore, even if you serve as a police officer, if you didn't have sufficient years of service, you would not qualify for pension payment. we took the decision to in fact join those years of service so that persons can qualify. And again, we didn't have to do so. No one asked us to do so, except that the pension secretariat team brought the data to us and asked whether we would consider doing so, and we unhesitatingly said yes. And again, that is testimony to the fact that we recognize that merely by categorizing people from rural constable to then constable would be unfair for them to lose the opportunity, again, to be paid a pension in circumstances where they've worked for the state for a long period of time. And I highlight this to say these issues are still ongoing. Obviously, for this batch of retirees, we've considered it, but these are still issues that plague the public service, so to speak, and they've been long-standing issues, and they have not been addressed or tackled in a frontal manner to bring a concluded or decided position on it. And those are some of the issues that we have to tackle going forward when we also talk about the issue of pension reform.
Right. So our beloved Prime Minister went above and beyond to make sure that quite a number of public officers who retired and didn't qualify based on the law, all right, get pension and get all that they supposed to get in a normal situation. But here it is. They didn't have to do it, but they did it anyways. You see, lest we forget all of these things, the NDC did far more for public officers than the NNP. Hear what the NNP intended to do if they had gotten back in power. You want to hear? I will play for you the method of payment, what they intended to do.
For public servants, following a court ruling, is estimated at $465 million as a one-off payment and an additional $120 million annually. However, Dr. Mitchell confidently said payments will begin later this year.
Right. So, firstly, it's a lie. It was never $465 million, and it was never $120 million annually. It's a lie. All right? Approximately this and approximately that. That was a lie. We saw the government paid what? Was it 70.1 million or 75.1 million? Somewhere thereabout.
All entitled public officers appointed by the Public Service Commission who will retire in 2022 at the legally accepted retirement age of 60 will be paid their pension during this year, 2022.
Right. So he spoke about as a method. That is what he was going to use if he had gotten back in power. So those who are retiring in 2022, they were going to get their pension. All right? But here it is. Very few public officers were actually retiring in 2022. Let's continue.
And the budget is being presented for 2023. At the end of 2022, those public servants that will retire in 2023, the pension payment will be in the budget document that we will bring forth for that year. So those in 2023 will also be paid their payment, sisters and brothers.
Right. So he then went on to say those who are retiring in 2023 would get their money in 2023. Right? The budget document of 2023. It will be in there. So 2024, they're going to get their money. All right? So I'm saying to you, 2022 and 2023, the people who are retiring in those 2 years, they are going to be paid their pension. But very few of them were actually retiring in those 2 years. The bulk of people were way before, who retired before 2022.
As regards to the pensions that are outstanding and are due to those who retired long before this year, we will have a phased approach for payment consistent with the national cash flow, and that will be announced shortly.
Right. So that's Keith Mitchell. So he's saying the people who retired, the bulk of the people who retired before 2022, it was only based on cash flow. Although the money was there, based on cash flow, they would be paid. That's the majority of the people who retired. So they were going to die and not get a pension. They were going to die and not get a pension if Keith and the NNP came back in power. Lest you forget that. Lest you forget that. The NDC did far more for public officers than the NNP. Far, far, far more. The bi-monthly salary. You remember the NDC introduced the bi-monthly salary? Yes, they introduced that to help public officers so that they would get their money twice per month, so they don't have to borrow to make it till the end of the month.
Bi-monthly payments are easier in terms of my responsibility in terms of paying bills, because I can divide and have better management in terms of how I pay the bill. I don't have to wait until the month to pay everything one time. Basically, it is divided in two. So it's as simple as that. If you have $1,000 to pay in bills, you pay $500 the first week, you pay $500 the second week. It is simple in terms of maths, where it is not $1,000 upfront. If you understand what I'm saying, it's as simple. So if you manage yourself properly, it is manageable, and you pay one bill, you pay the other bill, and you have other things to do. So it works out perfect, actually. It is a good idea because I've been in the system for a while now. It also takes discipline on the person, because no matter if you get money every week, every 2 weeks or whatever, you have to manage yourself and make sure that you pay your bills on time, and you make sure you have that payment there. So it's all about scheduling or whatever, but with the money coming every 2 weeks, you know you have a money coming in.
So with the bi-monthly payments, I believe that they benefit those workers who have financial obligations somewhat towards the beginning or the middle of the month. It gives them ample time to get those obligations out of the way and then enjoy the rest of the paycheck that they receive at the end of the month.
And you personally?
And so for me personally, because I have, my daughter's daycare to pay, as well as rent and bills and many other financial obligations pertaining to my daughter, also including medication, which I do have to refill every 2 weeks, this payment gives me a chance to not have to save in bulk, but I can simply just get the medication every other week with my salary.
So how welcoming is the bi-monthly payment for you?
I welcome the bi-monthly payments with open arms, as it benefits myself and many other individuals.
Right, so remember, the NNP had a different view on this, They never wanted bi-monthly salary. In fact, Keith Mitchell was interviewed on this same thing, the whole issue of bi-monthly salary.
Against it, because we had looked at it and realized it could be more problem than I see no, I don't see the value. It can, in fact, provide enormous administrative problems for the staff and the service as a whole, and over the country, because you have to understand, people are used to this monthly salaries. What happened was, when the thing was officially advanced recently, because don't forget that came on before, and we looked at it and realized there were no real advantages for this.
According to Dr. Mitchell, it will call for significant adjustments by individuals, including by financial institutions, and he is not satisfied that people are prepared to make the necessary changes.
But let's face it, I'm used to be doing business. I get my salary end of the month. I can already calculate how I'm going to live when I pay my rent or my mortgage, or when I pay my car note and so on. No, I don't have to readjust my whole processing of how I operate. I have the same amount of money. The question is, I don't know what the banks will do. Will they take, for example, you have a loan in the bank, will they take the first payment you get if there's enough money to take that as a loan, I don't see them saying, let me take half now and half tomorrow. That don't make no sense. So I think you're going to hear a lot more. Joy, you would hear there will be a lot of confusion.
Right, so there was no confusion. You see, that's Keith Mitchell, outdated. This guy is like an old BlackBerry phone or old Blue Soap phone. Outdated. The NDC administration started paying the bi-monthly salary. Everything going nicely. Everything going nicely. You see the point? So the NDC has done way more for public officers than the NNP. Way more. And the evidence is there to show. The evidence is on the table. The regularization, for example. That was not even a conversation. Not even a conversation under the NNP time.
Security, Home Affairs, Public Administration, Information and Disaster Management held a press briefing on Wednesday to update the public on the regularization of workers with the announcement of the official launch of the regularization exercise scheduled to commence from October 1st. Permanent Secretary in the Department of Public Administration, Lindonna Hille Marshall, says the process of regularization has already started, with several individuals already confirmed in their positions. The first phase is expected to be completed during the last quarter of 2023.
So the decision was taken for us to approach the regularization on 3 phases. The first phase, we would look at persons in acting, temporary, on assignment, and probationary status on the establishment. And as we mentioned, that process has already started, and we are optimistic by the end of December 2023, we should complete the first phase of the regularization exercise.
The second and third phases, which include the regularization of workers on contractual arrangements and Imani trainees, is expected to be completed over the next 2 years.
The second phase, which would look at persons holding PSC contract of service, daily paid, and persons holding ministry letters. That phase we trust we would be able to advance through in 2024. And then we're going to be in a position to start looking at the third phase, which would look at people who are holding contracts for service, as well as the Imani trainees.
PS Marshall says a functional review will also be conducted over the next 8 months to determine the optimal size of the public service.
The functional review exercise will be conducted through the combined efforts of specially constituted teams, as I mentioned, and we are scheduled to commence officially on the 2nd of October, and we anticipate the exercise will run for approximately 8 months. The aim of the functional review is to determine the optimal size of the public service needed to meet the ministries and departments' mandates and the priorities for maximizing efficiency in the public service.
An oversight committee was appointed, which include representatives from the Ministry of Labor, Finance, and Legal Affairs.
Right. So again, folks, regularization was never a thing under the NNP. The NDC decided to regularize workers. Those who are acting, the majority of them, they have already gotten regularized and they are now permanent in that position. But you know why the union donkey, Brian Grimes, is acting that way and talking about regularization and blah, 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 trying to throw dirty water over the process? Is because he doesn't want the government to go ahead with public service reform. Sorry, pension reform. He doesn't want pension reform to take place because the second phase and third phase must go hand in hand with pension reform, because the pension system as is cannot absorb them, or else it will go bankrupt. Government will have serious financial problems. So there must be pension reform for these people. But they want the government to rush and make these people permanent. If they make them permanent, then they fall under the 1958 pension laws. All right? So that is why he's making all the noise. But the government is not stupid. They're not going to go ahead and give these people permanent or make them permanent so that they can fall under the 1958 pension laws and not be able to pay them their pension. No. So there must be pension reform. So these people who are coming in, right, or who are there temporary and don't make a certain amount of years in the service, they would fall under that new pension plan, that new pension scheme, a contributory pension, where they contribute to it and the government, the employer, will contribute too. That is why he's making all the noise and talking about pension reform and he ain't this, not pension reform, sorry, regularization, and the regularization taking too slow. And if you ask, and it has been a failure and all kind of nonsense. 300 and something workers have already been regularized. 300 and something. But folks, the NDC has done far more for workers than the NNP. Far, far more. Remember the 13%? If it was NNP, they had to march in the streets for the 13% increase that they received. They had to march in the streets. Yeah, but no, they got 13% with the fringe benefits and all those things attached to it. Police officers, prison officers, public officers, teachers, just name it. All of them, they got that increase. If it was under NNP, they had to march in the streets for it, and they would not have given them that amount. So you have to be grateful. So when I spoke yesterday and I said, there are people within those ministries sabotaging the government, it was really sad to see that Andy Williams, the Honorable Andy Williams, the minister, had to now go and try to resolve something like little items going for the school feeding program when there are people who are paid to do that job. Some little food items, he has to go and resolve that. Teachers who are temporary, who have to get their pay, that public servants are paid to do the work to make sure that these people are paid, right? The minister has to come now and fix that. So what's the use of the PSs and the senior officers in those ministries? If I pay you to do a work, why should I come back and have to do the work? Then you should be fired or you should be disciplined. No matter what. So I spoke about that because they're sabotaging the government. And they should remember that this government has done far more for them than any other government that passed in this place. In particular, let's compare the NDC to the NNP. Look at the amount of things that were done for these people. You see, some people just wonder why certain things happening to them. Because when a government is so good to you and your colleagues, your workers, and you're trying to undermine the same government who is good to you, things just happen, and you just wonder. You just wonder. And it's across the board, You have people who are good to you, helping you, but you're still going and backstab them. You're still running hypocrite on them. You're still trying to undermine them. I'm telling you, folks, when I speak because I know what I'm saying to you. These things are not happening in isolation. They're deliberate. They're intentional to make the government look bad. And that is why I called last night on the government to put their feet down. Put your foot down and make the necessary changes in those different ministries. Because every time something like that happening is certain ministries. It's just certain ministries those things happening in. You got to make some changes. You have to. Because here it is. NNP got 15 seats 3 times. How they got it? I explained to you how they got it. when the NNP came into power, they gave their supporters, who they call the poor and the vulnerable, every year $100 million in the budget with social safety net programs. And they keep calling them poor and vulnerable over and over and over again so that they would qualify for all those programs and benefit $100 million annually, every budget. So in a term, they would get $500 million. Come on. $500 million in a term, a 5-year term. And if it stretched beyond that, they're getting even more. And don't talk about when it's close to the election, it will double. That is how they kept their base and their supporters. They were pumping that money. The NNP administration was pumping $100 million in the hands of their supporters. And still, because they call them poor and vulnerable, all those social safety net programs are there, and they still under those social safety net programs, and they're collecting every year a total of $100 million. Those same supporters, because NDC supporters cannot qualify for those programs because the rules restrict them from qualifying. The criterion, because if they have a TV, a stove, a couch, an indoor bathroom facility, and most of the NDC supporters, they have those things. So they don't qualify. And the people who come in and assess them are the same people who are assessing during the NNP time. So they will tell them, oh, you have a bathroom, you have a toilet, you have an indoor bathroom and toilet, you have a fridge, you have a stove, you have a bed, you're not qualified. So you always have to be .po to qualify to get that money. Yes, and to get the kind of support. 1 or 2 programs, they're able to push in their people. But generally speaking, the NNP locked this thing in for their supporters for life. $100 million every year, they're collecting that. That is how they kept their people. And they make them know that they cannot bite the hands that feeding them. Remember, that was a statement was made by one of them. I think it was the one in St. Mark, somewhere up there, that they cannot bite the hand that was feeding them. Don't forget that. I don't know if I have that piece here. I could look for it. But I remember a statement like that was made years ago, right? Let me see. Something to that effect. Something that they spoke about. They cannot bite the hand that feeding them, and so on. Right? It's somewhere around the place. I need to look for it. But they spoke about that, where they said to the supporters, look, we feeding you, we clothing you, we giving you all of this. And they had to support them. That is what they were doing to these people. I'm telling you, it was a public thing. So that is how they were keeping their supporters and their base. Nearly everything, all the little special projects, roads, drains, everything, they were getting. The asphalt paving on the road, they were getting that too. Everything their supporters were getting. Every single thing. Millions and millions of dollars were being pumped in their hands. That's how they kept them. They keep them going. So they're going to all their meetings. All their meetings. Don't forget that. And I remember that thing vividly, where they challenged the supporters, said to them, you can't bite the hand that's feeding you? No. And they explained, but that is exactly what they were referring to. That is what they were referring to. $100 million, of social safety net programs and so on, going directly to their supporters. We have to break the neck of that in the sense that we have to change the criteria. You don't have to get rid of those programs, but you have to change the criteria to make our people get in on those programs and benefit from them. We have to do that to keep our people and make sure our people are solid and grounded. And here it is. I said last night, no minister should try to be a hero. because you would never be. You hear me? You could do all what you want to do for them NNP supporters, they would not vote for you. The majority of them would not vote for you. They don't care about you. They want their party back in power. They want their people back in power. They don't want you there. They go use you. They go take all that they could take from you. They don't like you. They don't like you. They will pretend because they want to survive. They want to live. Those NNP supporters don't believe that they like you. So all you need to do is to identify your supporters in your constituency. If you have 5,000 people registered to vote, all you need to win is 2,501, you know. That's all you need. 2,501. Don't try to be no damn hero. You can't be no hero here. That is what the NNP did, in my belief, when they won all 15 seats on 3 occasions. They understand the thing and they say, hey, we cannot please all 5,000 people who are registered in this constituency. Let us focus on 2,501. Deep and personal. Make sure that they're happy. Make sure that they're good. Give them the little things that they want. Make sure that they're okay. And on election day, we just have to go and pick them up. Pop, 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 pop. And that's it. And that's it. So when you win your seat, don't matter. Once you get a 2,501, your opponent could get 2,499. They can't win. They cannot win you. So you have to focus on the amount you need to win and maintain that until election. You have the public purse. You're in government. You have the public purse. You could do things. You could fix roads. You could fix drains. You could fix bridges. You could give materials to people. Windows, doors, closet, cupboards. Just name it. You could get these young people into programs, paying them stipends and so on. You could help farmers who support you in those areas. Free fertilizer, free equipment, free farm labor and all these different things. Get your people in it. All the different programs, paying off people and giving people a little support and finances and so on. Make sure your people capitalize and get in it. So once you maintain that, your block, your amount of votes, you don't have to worry about the rest. When election time comes around, you must win. That is what the NNP was doing over and over and over, in my belief. That is why they were getting 15 seats. They were not getting the majority of people in every constituency always. They didn't want all the people to support them and vote for them. They just want the majority, right? That's all they wanted. They wanted to just get the majority. So if you have 6,000 people registered in a constituency, all they wanted was 3,100, 3,050, 3,020. That's all. When you get that, your opponent cannot beat you. So don't try to be no damn hero. You're not no hero. And you would never be no hero. Focus on the amount of people that you need to win and take care of them until the elections. So when the most honorable Deacon Mitchell decide to call the election, it's a done deal. You could set up your stage since 12 o'clock. Since 12 o'clock on election, they could set up your stage with the DJ and everything to celebrate. That's how you win. That's how you win 15 seats. Just focus on the amount of people you need to win. Yes, you're serving the whole country. But when it comes to winning, focus on the amount of people you need to win. That is what the NNP did for years. You cannot play too nice in this business and play nicey, and you want to please every damn body. What's wrong with you? You can't please everybody. You cannot. Everybody would not vote for you. You have 20-something thousand who support the NNP. You have 20-something thousand who support the NDC. And then you have the people in the middle. And the people in the middle, they already like you. They like what you're doing in the country. Right? The people in the diaspora, they're already on your side. That's common sense. Common sense. You cannot please everybody. Focus on the amount of people you need to win. And even if you have some NDC supporters who giving you trouble, and you realize that you can work with them in terms of pleasing them, try to please their children who could vote. Please the others around them. And they will get to their senses. They must get to their senses. That's common sense. Common sense. Just get the numbers. You don't need everybody. Get the numbers. Make sure you have the numbers. House to house, door to door, canvass the list. Get the phone numbers of these people. Get to know their needs and their wants. Get to know their birth dates. When is their birthday? If there's a funeral, you should be the first to go there to sympathize. Bring a bouquet of flowers. Bring this, bring that, help them. Give them 4, 5, 6 cases of drinks, 10 cases of drinks. Be there. That's what you got to do. Simple. Simple. Singing not no genius thing. Simple. Be there. When things are given out and money from government and so on, make sure your people get first. So you already know the amount of people you need to win, and you work with them. You still have time to work with them until the election. You have almost 3 years again to go. You need to start doing that. You cannot please everybody. And NMP people go talk. So what? If I know that in 10 seats, I have the numbers, and I'm taking care of these people, and I have their commitment, they're going to go out and vote for me and support me. Right? Them NNP and them brain and talking, that would not move me. No. Who cares? You talk, you brain, you back, you complain. Who cares? Who cares? You win the election over and over and over again. That's why you win an election. You can't please everybody. You're no hero. What's wrong with you all? Focus on your numbers. But to focus on your numbers, you need to know your numbers. You have to be out there, knocking on doors, getting to know who your supporters are. Right? Getting their phone number, getting the place of work where they work in, getting their skill set. Who is carpenter, who is mason, who is this, who is small business owner, who is farmer, who is that. You have to have all in your database. Election is scientific. It's no longer just a paper thing. It's different now. So you got to work on that. So once you know the needs and wants, you could please these people, and you can make them all okay until the election. It's what it is. So you win an election over and over and over again. Come to camp. I know how the NNP used to do it. You hear me? Lest you forget, I worked in the NNP headquarters, and I know all that was happening. All you forget that? Lest you forget that. I worked there. I worked in the constituency office in St. John as the man running the show in St. John too. Lest you forget that. Don't forget that. I could tell you. So I know. I was campaign manager for Michael Church when he won his seat. I run that operation easy like 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So I know. I'm not guessing this thing. I know what's going down. So I'm saying to you, the NNP method of winning is very simple. When they were in power, the NNP administration was pumping $100 million in the hands of the people they call the poor and the vulnerable, their supporters, every year. And then they would focus on the amount of people they need to win in the constituency. They don't need everybody. They don't need everybody. It is simple like that. It's common sense. I was an executive member of the NNP, so I know the youngest executive member of the. I'm not new to politics. There are people who are ministers and who are senior people in government. They're new. They don't know about politics. I've been there long in politics in Grenada. Long. So I'm not guessing this. I stood up to Keith Mitchell, that old coward. I stood up to him. That coward. You think he ain't know me? He know me well, and he know my capabilities. Don't worry him. He's an old coward. A coward. You hear me? It's no guess game. And Velma, my good friend, that's not the first time I'm saying that. I've explained that over and over to let people know that I am no novice in this damn business. I've been around this thing long enough to understand this thing to a T. I know Johnny come lately. I don't just come in this thing. So I'm saying it's important that you organize, that you understand this thing, and you do what must be done to win over and over again. I'm not new to this. No. So when I talk on this program, I'm talking from experience. I know what it takes to win. And I know what you need to do to win. Folks, I want to wish you all the best. Don't forget Ricardo Kings Douglas. He has an event in England this weekend. This weekend, he has that event, Mouth Open Story Jump Out comedy event. That is on this coming Saturday, starting from 7 p.m. All right? So you can call him up. You can buy your tickets on www.eventbrite, that's brite.co.uk. www.eventbrite, as brite.co.uk, or you can call them on 07903087 for tickets. All right? So I want to wish you all the best. Have a good weekend. I'll be back with you on Sunday in the hub. Sorry, the dynamic hour starting from 1